Today's something a little special. Today is a little bit of a callback to Alpha 1, to the testing period we had a few months ago from July to August, middle of August. I want to talk about my overall feedback and thoughts on it. Held off a little bit on it so that we could have some more time to think about it, obviously, and give us some time to reminisce. So, let's get into it. So, this video is going to be a little different than how we normally do them. I will be going through my Word document that I normally have, and we'll just be talking about it. I wrote this on stream after our very last testing day, so I've had it for a bit. I've had time to work on it, have time to look it over, and we've got a bullet points to go over with that. What we're going to be going over today, we're going to start with what they wanted us to talk about it. What they wanted to know was the download performance, client performance, and server performance. Now, we're also going to be going over the combat changes, be going over boss fights, be going over quests, armor and weapon designs, stats and character information, small and unimportant but important things. I know it sounds kind of weird, but it'll make sense. And then my problems. That's what we'll be going over today. Again, to start off, put a lot of time into this Alpha 1 playtest. We put roughly 190 hours over the course of that month of playtime into the Alpha 1 playtest. I think I had over 200 hours logged on Twitch. So we played all the classes, the max level. I tested each one out in what the current end game is in at least full epic. If you guys saw any of my Twitch stuff, I assisted many players on my server with completing dragon runs. That is the Frost Dragon, the Ice Dragon. On the very last day, we managed to take down the Fire Dragon. Felt so good. I helped people finish quests, and I answered all the questions I could. From that, I would assume I have the necessary playtime and experience to talk about a lot of these. But let's get into what Intrepid wanted from us when we were talking about Ashes of Creation, what the feedback they asked. They wanted to know how the download, the client, and the server performance was. Well, the download and the installation process. The initial download and installation, it was fine. There weren't problems. The problem lied in patching. Whenever I needed to update to a new patch every week, I just uninstalled the entire game and I reinstalled it. It was faster and it worked better. I hope they can fix that, make it a little bit better for Alpha 2, because it was a pain in the ass. But, like, outside of just, like, the time, it's not too much of a problem, it's just annoying. Next, client performance. Client performance is really good. Server performance. Overall, the servers seemed to be pretty stable. It was good. No real complaints. When there were enough particle effects or people, talking closer to over 100 people in like the siege tests, there was lag. The open world also had some problems with mobs not loading in until you were on top of them. Now, you could think, okay, well, whatever. And again, this is early game development. It'll be fixed, but it would be nice if it was fixed by Alpha 2. We'll see. It's just annoying when you're running away and you think you've gotten away from a boss mob and you end up right on top of another challenge you have to deal with. The only other problem was when moving fast enough, either on the Kirin mount, which was the fastest mountain we could get, also the most expensive when they changed the mount prices, or with speed bugs, terrain would not load in quickly. Obviously, speed bugs, they're not endorsing bugs, anything like that. But, again, it's the rendering and how things worked. The Kirin mount, it was moving as fast as intended with its incredible sprint buff, but if they intend on keeping it that way, fixing that would be nice. That was all they wanted. That's all I asked for. If that's what they wanted, I will give them that. Intrepid, I love you. You do what you got to do. I will give you that information. Of course, I put it up on their forums way long ago when they asked. And there you go. That's it. Now, if I were to move my camera or move this around a little bit, you guys would see I have almost 3,000 words written in this document. We have a bit to go. We will, of course, be skipping the part where I talked about classes. As you've seen, we talked about the fighter already, planning on having the tank video come out soon enough. And I'll talk about the 3 classes that were in, the game for Alpha 1 in those videos. And the other ones I've done already. Combat changes. Let's get into something I thought was pretty important. I spent almost all my time doing combat, if not running around. So I'd assume it'd be pretty important. Obviously, when gathering, crafting, all that stuff comes out, that'll be important then, but this is what we had now. We had split body and root body. Split motion, root body. I've already made a video talking about this. Split body wins every time. I do not like root motion in Ashes of Creation. I want it gone. I know some people would like to have both. If we could have both, that'd be great. That's it. Done. I think the animations need some work, obviously, for the split body combat, but I'm assuming they rushed out split body the week that they did when people kept complaining that, root motion didn't feel nice. Overall, I think removing movement from a game is a big deal and needs to be done properly. Movement is one of your greatest tools. It is your most important tool to get in and out of correct situations, in and out of dangerous situations. So let's talk about the spell Prismatic Beam. It shows it off pretty well. It has high damage, it's a good area of effects, and it looks fantastic. It really does, if you guys saw any of it. Beautiful visuals. Everything the spell gives makes it feel like a good spell. Now, what are you losing? You're losing mobility. You're losing that movement. It's that trade-off. It's a good trade-off. If auto attacks did enough damage to have that trade-off work, you most likely wouldn't even use your skills, which wouldn't feel too good. Split body also needs some work for the feeling of it. Though it does feel much better than root, the impact of your swing seems a bit low. Again, when you had root, it really felt like you had a strong impact because your character was moving. So maybe if they added a little bit of camera shake very slightly around like the edges of your your monitor, or slightly different particle effects, I think it'd be fine. Generally speaking, as is gameplay over immersion. Gameplay over immersion any day. Just because I think immersion is second to gameplay, it doesn't mean I think it's not important. It should be addressed. Immersion is incredibly important to many, many people. Not everybody, but many people really care about immersion. They care about the deep dive into a world that's not our own, because it sucks less. It sucks sometimes in game, but not as much. Split body over root body motion any day of the week. Hands down. I would not take root motion over split body ever in this game. Boss fights. We're talking dragon fights. We're talking it before whom all trembles. Boss fights. Maybe add some more movement abilities to boss fights, like knockbacks or pulls. Before whom all tremble did this very well with the pull it had. It would pull you in from very far, and then afterwards it would throw out this big area of effects spell that would do massive damage, if not outright kill you if you didn't get out of it. So you actually had to be fast on your feet. You had to move. It felt good. It was fun. It felt like you learned when you knew what it was going to do, when you could play around it. I like it. People had fun with it. People enjoyed it. More of that. Some bosses felt too much like a tank and spin. I stood there, I took damage, I rolled out of something, I stood there, I took damage, I rolled out, I stood there, I took damage, I rolled out. That was it. More of, oh, I need to be doing things to make sure things work. like with that movement ability. I enjoyed bosses having a DPS check. I think this is something that was a little up in the air for some people. Some people didn't seem to like it too much, some people did. But when a boss healed a massive amount and you actually had to go out of your way to make sure you did enough damage to beat it, I think it was nice. It meant you had to prove to the game that you knew what you were doing, or you were geared enough for the fight. Having the boss heal at a certain threshold and having it continue to heal is a nice addition, since it keeps players from going in without enough people to fight the boss. This point mainly derives in my disdain for having people be able to solo fights that should be on-level content. We had people soloing dragons by themselves. Not only did this screw over other people who wanted to actually fight the bosses, it kind of ruins the point of having to group up and be a team, which is what MMOs are about. Good alternative to this might be an enrage mechanic added to some bosses. Think Final Fantasy XIV. Wow. MMOs in general. For instance, the Poison Dragon maybe covers his entire boss arena with poison that constantly hits with a dot. That can be healed, but not at the rate it is applied, ensuring dead PCs before long. This enrage could be a sort of could be a soft or a hard enrage, but be strong enough to end the raid if the boss doesn't die fast enough. I want people to be able to clear fights. I want people to be able to have a good time. It is a video game. But you need the sense of accomplishment. You need either a hard enrage, like maybe the fire dragon hitting the entire raid with a massive amount of damage that you just have to deal with. Or maybe the poison dragon, as I said, covering the area with poison. Again, you won't die outright, but there's no way you're going to get through healing it, even if your entire raid was clerics. But it gives you a little bit of time to take the boss down. I think this would help the game. It would feel better if they did this. Elder Dragon of the Forest. This is a part where I kind of went into each of the different bosses specifically and what I thought about them. So let's get into that real quick. Elder Dragon of the Forest. It was very tank and spank fight. Had more mechanics for healers and mages. The damage increase of the dragon was a welcome addition. At some point in the testing, they added some more damage to him, added some new abilities. They had this move where sometimes, I don't know if it was a glitch or not, but he would hold down the tank and then slap you. He would fly in the air, hold you in place, and slam down onto you. You couldn't avoid it. That was it. I don't know if that was intended, but it should be. It felt fantastic. It before whom all trembles. This was generally just a good fight. There are mechanics that every class archetype had to watch out for and play around. I love this fight. This fight was at the end of the main story quests that we had in the Alpha 1. It was awesome. It was fantastic. It was a cool ending. And the fight was fun. Again, it was fun. Father Tundra is the Ice Dragon. Could use some knockbacks. Overall, a pretty good fight. Having to learn mechanics to properly do the fight without wiping was nice. The damage increase of the dragon was a welcome addition. Again, at some point, some of the damage got upped on some bosses so that they couldn't be soloable as easily. More damage from a boss, but still beatable. It's good. Again, there's a reason people do normal, heroic, mythic, or normal, savage, normal, extreme, whatever it may be. People like the sense of accomplishment. Again, knockbacks, I think, are cool. They're interesting, but Father Tundra had some cool mechanics that everyone had to learn and do. And being able to learn them with a group rather than watching a video online that's like, hey, this is how you do it. It was really fun. It was really nice, honestly. Pyroclastic Worm. This was at the end of what was supposed to be like a 40-man raid. But you could just run by most of it and just fight the boss. Could use some knockbacks. Overall, a pretty good fight. Having the ad phase halfway through was a nice change. You fight the boss. You're having to deal with some abilities. You have to stand in the right places so that you don't get hit by certain AoE attacks. Halfway through, it flies into the air and summons a ton of raptors. I hate these raptors. They're zebra raptors. And they do a ton of damage. And they're raid level mobs. They have a ton of HP. They do a ton of damage. They're not fun. But you have to deal with that. You have to take a whole bunch of them down while they all run at your raid group. And it was a really, really, really cool addition to the fight. It was a cool mechanic to deal with. Seeing people do it with like 40 people and then seeing people try to do it with 10 people, it was fun and interesting. I enjoyed it. More stuff like that. Good. Elder Dragon of the Flame. I beat this boss once. And that was when we had way more people on our server because we were doing all the endgame stuff on Lilith, thankfully, because US West, I live on the West Coast, Intrepid's on the West Coast. Hey! Parts that worked were very cool and challenging. This is what I'd expect from an N-tier boss that would need at least 40 people fully geared. The boss was broken after about, I don't remember if it was 10, 15, or 20% HP goes down on him. He had about 2.5 million. He would glitch out and the boss wouldn't do anything. You would get a ranged weapon and you would hit it. That's it. You would be stuck in a small area, and if you walked in, you died. If you stayed outside, you'd live. It's unfortunate. That's how it was, but again, is what it is. It took us about 40 people, but we did clear it on that last day. Getting it down to that point, that was hell. That boss had so many mechanics. It had a stack. I had no... It was a tank buster stack. You had a stack with multiple tanks or you would die. I think I had like 24 to 2600 HP at the end, and it would hit me for 4000. I can't live through that. It felt great. It was such a cool fight. I wish it was fixed. We had a GM there watching us kill it, and he was able to note down what happened and whatnot. That's awesome. They can fix it. It was so cool. It was so cool. Broodmother. This was a boss in the Underdark. Some people went and fought it. Some people, I don't think, ever fought it just because it was kind of out there. And if Winstead wasn't leveled up, one of the cities, to at least the max tier could go in Alpha 1, you couldn't really get the quest to go fight her either. So some people just didn't know about it. Felt like a challenging fight that required coordination and teamwork. Really enjoyed having the boss's effects have the impact feeling behind them. One of the things that Broodmother did was she would slam the ground and a whole bunch of jets of like fire would come out of the ground, doing a whole bunch of damage, and you had to get out of it. That, or she would get up and slam down on the raid team, or she would hit the main tank and your camera would shake a bit, or the entire map would shake, and you'd get thrown off balance a little bit. It was super duper cool. And it felt like I was fighting some great being that had been sleeping underground for millennia or something. A+. It was super cool. Broodmother had a regeneration, just like the Pyroclastic Worm did. It was cool. It was interesting. I want to fight it again. Please. So cool. And that would be boss fights. So for the current classes, I'm just going to read a little slight blurb here, and we're going to go on from there. I understand this is not a focal point of A1 testing. I understand not all the classes are in the game currently, but all 3 general archetypes are currently in. We have a tank, a DPS, and a healer currently in the game, which is a good sample of what's to come and should be enough to talk at least slightly on the matter as a whole. This is why I felt pretty alright with talking about it. Tank is the only one classified as tank. Mage is obviously DPS. Cleric, wow, who would have guessed is a healer? Well, I guess in Alpha 1, Cleric was a DPS, a tank, and a healer, and all better at all 3 of them than anyone else. But it's a healer. Again, overall, I personally think each archetype was well represented in Alpha 1, and what we should look out for and forward to was shown. Tank is in need of some threat gen, but overall plays nicely and is fun. Mage is in a good spot right now, just needs to be built off what is already there. Cleric is very strong sustain and will be quite usable in solo and group content, whether it be PvE or PvP. They're quite the good class. I'm looking forward to seeing what the other 5 classes bring us in terms of DPS and support, and how subclasses will augment them. We will get into each of those much more deeply in separate videos. Next up, quests. It's a very important aspect in any MMO. Quests are incredibly important, and you spend a lot of your time doing them. So let's go over that a little bit. I understand this was not a focal point of A1 testing. I understand questing will be redone once A2 hits. I still think putting in my input for it would be valid, as it maybe helps set the pace for what is to come. Overall, quests just need some work to make sure they work. That's fine, not a big issue. It's Alpha 1, who cares? It'll get fixed. How they're running quests currently feels nice. I really enjoyed exploring the world and finding new quests, without them just being on my map initially from a quest marker. Example, having to go and find Zanliv. This was this giant Ents that was walking around the northwest section of the map. We called him Groot on our server. It was really interesting, since the quest was spread by word of mouth. Though, some quests did have certain problems. Zanliv gave a necklace when you finished his questline. There were 2 options, I believe. A third one was implemented near the end, and it was what was supposed to be the tank necklace. I never got it. Feels bad. Is what it is. You did not know this guy was up here. This guy was set in a path that walked through a forest of level 15 spiders and raptors. But you would come onto the road every once in a while. If nobody would have seen him, nobody would have found him, and no one would have gotten that necklace. The only way I learned about it was someone in World Chat was like, bro, I found this mob, but he was a dude. We should go check it out. He's got a quest. There's a boss at the end. Like, that's sick. I want to fight a boss. We went, we did the quest, we fought the boss. It was fantastic. It was such a cool experience, because generally you finish a quest, and either you get another quest that says, here, go to this specific location on the X and Y plane, or it's, here's a whole bunch of quests on your map. Go grab one. No. Hey, there are things, if you look, use your eyeballs, or look up a wiki page when the game comes out. Use your brain. It was really cool. It was cool to have to think. The end of the questline revolving around Antoine. My good boy Antoine. Oh, Antoine. And his damn disappearing binding desk. If any of you were hanging out on Twitch with me, or if you were watching someone else, Antoine had a lovely binding desk he would ask you to go put his papers on, and they would end up blowing away. Problem is, the binding desk, after enough people did it, would just go away and you couldn't do the questline anymore. The GoFundMe has still not ended. Feel free to go put money towards helping Antoine find his desk someday. There's a slight problem to it. When you needed to go to the Goblin Village at the end of the questline, the quest stated it was for level 8 player characters. Throughout this quest, you helped out Antoine with his binding desk. You would go grab the papers. You would go grab more of the papers, and then he'd say, "Hey, go to this Goblin Village." It says it's recommended for level 8 player characters. Once arriving at the location, you're greeted by a couple low-level goblins outside of the encampment. That's fine. You can deal with them. You just got to be smart not to pack them up. And then you find yourself surrounded by level 14 to 15 goblins. Quest boss himself is meant for a party of level 8s, and that's fine. The problem lies in its location. Needing to path and traverse around high-level mobs requiring brain power is fine. Again, using your thinking skills, your noggin, But having a level 8 party boss within a zone of level to 14 to 15 mobs quickly turns the quest into a level 15 party quest. In this scenario, it can easily upset the players and quickly make the level 8 quest rewards not worth the hassle. Either setting the quest and quest reward to a higher level, changing the location that part of the quest is in, or lowering the mobs in the direct vicinity of the boss would help alleviate this issue. Though I feel like lowering the level may not be the correct idea, since it brings us to a different problem. Party-based content is important for an MMO, and it needs to exist. But there is a thing of having party content happen too early, which can discourage the players. I believe the players should have ample time to learn how to play the game before having to be forced into party-based content. Without that, there's a good possibility that we'll end up running into new player anxiety, where people might not want to play with others since they feel they're not good enough yet. On a release, having party content start between 10 to 20 would make sense, since it gives ample time to learn how to play the game first. Let's go over this real quick. You're going around as the new player, relatively new. You're doing this quest line. Hopefully it works. And you want to fix your binding desk. And you go through this entire quest line. You've spent over an hour trying to deal with this, going around this entire section of this part of the map. And you get to the end and you can't even do it. You're sitting there with maybe 3 or 4 other level 8s. You can't do it. You would need to go back to town and find a group of level 15s to assist you. Now, is that a bad thing, promoting, player interaction? No. It's a bad thing that each level 8 character needs to go get a party of level 15 characters to assist him. Making the quest level higher or changing where it's located so you don't, you can maybe pass past a couple level 14 or 15 mobs. That's fine. That encampment was covered in mobs. If you were not a level 15 cleric or in a party with a cleric, you would die. Level 15 tank, almost full legendary gear, I died again and again and again. No matter how smart I was, the respawn rate was so high for the little dudes, I couldn't live. So in the end, it did not feel like a good gameplay experience, and I hope they fix that, because it needs to be fixed, and it didn't feel good. On top of that, we get to the new player anxiety that we talked about at the end there. Party content is incredibly important, but anxiety for being new at the game or thinking you're bad at a specific role is a very serious problem in games. I will be starting raiding soon, but I recently started doing high-level content with a group in Final Fantasy XIV, or what is considered high-level content to me. Extreme Trials. It's where you go in and fight bosses you fought before, but they have harder mechanics. Learning those, it's not that bad. The fights aren't too bad. They're a lot of fun, but I was scared to death at the beginning. I also play as a melee in that group, melee DPS. So all I do is damage and make sure I don't die. Stand in the right places when I need to. You could not get me to tank to save my life, even though I love tanking in that game. Because I think I'm probably bad at it, even though I would do fine. I have that anxiety. This is coming from the guy who main tanked every boss in Ashes Alpha 1 for multiple groups, but I have main tanked every single boss in Alpha 1. Still freaks me out. Still. So, as a new player, it'd be a lot worse. I was worried about playing it all in a party. We don't want to hit that. We don't want to get into that problem, that scenario. So, like I said, between level 10 to 20, it's a good spot to start. I think the first dungeon for WoW was level 12 or 16? I'd have to check. I played Horde. And for 14, the first one you get is level 16. That's good. It's a good spot. You can learn your class and what you have until then. You can learn the game. And then you move on from there. You're good. You're set. You're ready to go. It's a good point to start with. And I hope they go with something like that. Small, important, but unimportant things. We will be coming back to that. I promise. Armor and weapon design. This is quite important, but I think it's really important. You want your character to look like a peasant in the beginning. You don't want to be the coolest dude on the block. No, you're level 1. You suck, just like everyone else does. We all suck. You hit max level, you do a couple raids, you should look like hot shit. Everyone should be thinking, I want to look like that guy that's sitting next to the fountain. That guy is the coolest guy I've ever seen. How do I get your armor, bro? I want to be just like you when I hit max level. And he can be like, I'm part of this group, part of the 22nd Legion. We've been raiding for a while. Got it from the most recent raid. Practice yourself up. Maybe you can do it someday, kid. There you go. That's how it should be, right? You should want to strive to acquire these armors, these weapons. So it's important. Currently, we've seen 2 types of plate armor and 1 type of cloth armor for endgame. The variations look unique and vary quite well depending on the level and rarity of the gear. Simply adding more to this will improve it a lot, as well as adding in other types of armor like leather and so on. Fast, to the point, easy. I want to see what leather will look like. I want to see what other plate gear will look like. I want to see what other cloth armor will look like. Ashes is a beautiful game. Give me more of it. Steven, the creative design team, Intrepid, give me more of your beautiful world and keep throwing it at my face because I love it. Stats, character information. This is pretty important and kind of a problem with Ashes. One big problem that I had with the Alpha 1 playtest is that some stats don't have indicators for what they're doing. Some sort of pop-out text box giving a small description of what each stat does would be helpful. It's slightly vague how certain things work and how they're affecting your damage / received damage. Example, what exactly is 26 physical disable defense doing for my character? I couldn't tell you. How much damage am I receiving from having 86 physical damage bonus? Is it 86? Am I doing 86 more damage per swing? Is it being added before some modifiers? What multiplier are we getting from a skill to get the expected damage? Couldn't tell you. Questions like these wouldn't be an issue if certain stats and abilities had the pop-out texts with the information. Physical disable defense. Any one of you can tell me what that does, I would be very grateful and surprised, because I couldn't find any information on it. I don't know what it does. I know it was on some armor pieces I had, and I had a bit of it. Why? Should I care? Is there a reason for it? Do I need to go and go down to the nearest market and be like, bro, I need more of my physical disable defense. Where is that? Give me some more of that. I couldn't tell you, bro. I don't know how much what is affecting what. Info would be nice. I would appreciate it. A lot of people would. Before we get into my problems with the Alpha 1 playtest, let's go back. Small, unimportant, but actually important things. These are things that I don't think serve a purpose now. I don't think they need to worry about them now. I don't think they're the most important things in comparison to having that character information or maybe working on some bosses or some class stuff. But I think these topics are important. The ocean would feel much more full of life and expansive if some semblance of ocean life was added, like fish swimming around. It's stupid. I know it doesn't sound important, but swimming around in the ocean on a aquatic mount was fantastic. I loved moving around and being able to go fast because I used my brain power to buy an aquatic mount and be ready for that. It was awesome. Going underwater, it was beautiful. It felt kind of dead. There wasn't anything in there. I'm assuming because it's, Alpha 1. But when they're going in to add those kind of things, that'd be cool. Like little packs of fish. Some goldfish, why not? I don't care. Some packs of fish swimming through some coral or through the seaweed and stuff like that. Be interesting and be fun. This is a very alpha topic. And this is a topic this next one I bring up in the terms because it's alpha 1, and you know, it'd be nice if they fixed it for alpha 2. Some boss movements when used in certain terrain should be looked over. For example, Father of Fear, which he was like it before whom all trembles, but he was in a different location. Would end up moving on top of some rocks and would glitch out sometimes, and was generally off-putting to try and tank. You would go on top of these rocks and you could almost not hit him unless you were in a certain part. And then he'd pull you and throw down the big AoE that you would have to get out of. So you'd have to run off and then back into a very specific spot so you could hit the boss and keep aggro. And it was really unnerving, and I really didn't like it. And I hope they look at some of the locations and how the bosses act. The profanity filter was quite rude. It simply assumes what I was saying was bad. Assumes. Yeah, you could type out assumes, it would censor ass out of it. You could type out kid, it would censor kid. I think butt was censored, like BUTT. It was really funny, and I know they said it was a problem that they were looking at fixing. Again, a little bit of reminiscing here. It was a fun time, but I hope they can get that right, because, you know, sometimes you have to assume a mechanic, and I don't want to moom a mechanic. Now, we're going to get into the problems. A lot of these have been things that I think should be changed, things I think were cool, things I think were fun, didn't have a place maybe, but these are actual problems with the Alpha 1 test that I think should be addressed. Big problem. The guidance in testing. This is not a problem with the game, and I don't think this is anyone's fault in particular, but I think it's important enough that it should be talked about, because I think how it was dealt with wasn't too great. Testing as a whole was good, but guidance would have improved it a ton. For instance, having a schedule like, hey guys, please be sure to try and test out nodes this week. Try to see if movement is working well, and let us know about mob spawns. Besides that, test everything, have fun, enjoy. Small, sweet, easy peasy. What it comes down to is there was a lot of people playing Alpha 1 all month long that would have been happy to give feedback every week. Myself included. Again, I had 190 hours. I know at least one person, if not two people, that beat my time. That had level 15s on multiple characters of the same class as well as one of each. One of those people even had to leave on a business trip with his girlfriend the last day, and he still might have beat me. Many people did not, because there wasn't some more specific guidance or guidelines about what they wanted as feedback. Again, let's get back to it. Week 1, explore. Week 2, we've been watching some of your stuff. Be sure to test the nodes this week. We tried to change them a little bit. See if the movement's working well. We've seen that's a little buggy recently. Let us know about mob spawns. So we've seen some problems with those. Multiple things. Multiple small things that a lot of people would have been happy to go on the forums, give a nice long reply or a concise reply, whatever, about what they saw. I personally put in roughly 190 hours over the course of this playtest. I have a lot of feedback to give and would happily give feedback on anything and everything that I could. Just some sort of idea what the company would like over the course of the test would be greatly appreciated. All I'm saying here is Intrepid. I love your video game. incredibly much. It was a fantastic experience, and I can't wait to experience it again. I will be playing as much of the content Alpha 2 as I physically can. I will be playing as many different things as I can, and I will continue playing it as much as I can. Again and again and again. You tell me what you're curious about, or else I will ramble for over an hour, over half an hour, however long. Like, look at this video again and again and again. Tell me what you want. I will give that to you. I know there are multiple people who feel this way. Your game is fantastic. How you're developing is fantastic. Give us some goals. Give us some community goals of what to look at, what to work on. I will provide bug reports all day long. Sure, I tried my best, even though I did forget sometimes, to provide bug reports in the Alpha 1. I reported that a specific road wasn't loading correctly. Outside of was it Nala? It was Nala. And I reported it. It wasn't fixed after a week. Do you want me to report it again? I can. I even put exact position, like XYZ plane position. Do you want that? Tell me. I want to know. Let me help you, because that's what I want to do. I love Ashes and I want to see it thrive. Tell me what you want. Let me help you test this game. Next, player retention. I feel that player retention was slightly low as content got repetitive. I understand this is expected, being how much content was in the game that we were expected to test. The statement is presuming that the company wanted people to test over the entire month, not just drop in and out over a few weeks. I can't tell you what the company wanted because I don't work for them. My mouth is not their mouth. I don't know what they wanted. I don't know if it was a month long so people could continuously test stuff, so people would have different times to test things depending on what they wanted. But if we look at a lot of content creators, a lot of people did it the first weekend, almost the whole weekend, if not a couple days out of that first 4-day play test. Multiple people. Multiple people. And then again on the last weekend. Not a lot in between. Now, it's because the amount of content was in there, and I get it. That's fine. It's Alpha 1, you know. You only have so much for Alpha 1, and it was, you know, kind of a small set of stuff. I get it. It's fine. It'd be nice information to know. Even if the plan was to have Alpha 1 open for an entire month to give different players time to play, I still think player retention should have been a bit focused on a bit more. Even though some people tested at night, after school, work, adulting, some people tested only on the weekends. There were some, like myself, that put in a lot of time into the game. I think more people would have set aside time to test and play if certain steps would have been taken. People had the time, and they put it elsewhere because of certain reasons. I think if PvP was activated more often during the playtest, I'm talking about open world PvP, maybe the last day of every week outside of sieges, it would have increased player retention. One, it would have added something to look forward to near the end of each week. You worked 3 days out of the 4 days it's up to get yourself ready for PvP. There you go. Give some people something to work towards. Second, it would give players more of a reason to test how Siege works and feels during Siege, rather than spending the entire time testing and trying PvP. Almost every single time, besides pretty much when, you know, Steven or the company called in saying, hey, let's all test. Let's get in a Siege. We never tested the Siege. We jumped in there to kill the raid level dragons that were inside of there that dropped certain loot. Or we jumped in there to test PvP, to fight each other a bit, to see how some things worked. That was it. We didn't siege in the siege location, we PvP'd. But that's because we didn't have another way to PvP. Finally, some people were really focused and looking forward to the PvP aspect all playtest long. I saw multiple different guilds named Turn PvP On. I had people copium. Oh, they'll turn it on this weekend. This would have helped them to get more enjoyment and to have more time. They would have put more time into the game. I get maybe it's not what they were looking forward to testing. I understand that. I understand maybe that's not what they wanted to test. It's not what they wanted people to do. But that's what a lot of people wanted. And if you would have given them that one day of, your 4-day week that it's open, if they would have played the other days to get ready for that day. Rather than, oh, it's not going to be open all month, I'll just come back at the end. We would have been able to test more things, and we would have gotten more things tested and out of the way. That's not how Intrepid wants to do it. That's fine. That's their choice. I'm not going to tell them what to do. I'm going to say what I know multiple people talked about and we're looking forward to, and how they could have changed that. And that brings us to the end of this almost 3,000 word document. I know it's been quite a lot, but I hope it helped you think. I hope this helped you reminisce about some of the Alpha 1 gameplay, because we're obviously all waiting for Alpha 2 and we're all excited for it. But I just thought it'd be fun to, do it now, have a little fun talking about what could be changed, what should be changed, how things could be improved. My thoughts on that. But these are my thoughts. These are how I think they could have improved, how I think they could have done better. What I loved about how Ashes Alpha 1 was, what I want Ashes Alpha 2 to be, what I think they can improve upon, what I would love to see more of, how I would love to see Antoine's binding desk exist. Antoine, please. I will get your GoFundMe going. Come on. All of this comes from the heart with love, and I just want the game to be better for all of us. If you agree on anything, if you want to talk about any of the stuff we talked about, leave a comment, please. Happy to talk with you about it. I try to respond to as many comments as I can. Thank you all for stopping by today. I've been Tech22. I am on Twitch. My schedule will be changing, so it might even be every day from now on. We'll see. And otherwise, I will see you with the next YouTube video that comes around. Thank you all so much. You've been fantastic. And I'll catch you next time. Until then. Peace out, everybody. I am upset about the binding desk. I am. I think I might be slightly scarred. Oh, Antoine!